there. Welcome to the Mastering Social Media for Schools podcast. It's Andrea, and you've got two amazing guests today, Miriam and Laurie out of Hive. You guys, we're talking enrollment, we're talking marketing, we're talking social media, we're talking about your biggest struggles with marketing efforts and enrollment. We're talking about three things that you can do right now over these summer months to improve enrollment. And then we're driving into some of the things that you should stop doing when it comes to admissions, enrollment, and marketing. Like, what should you stop doing? This just is overflowing. If you're listening to this while you're working out, that's okay, but you're probably going to want to come back when you can take a few notes. Okay. Now, before we get to this week's K-12 PR tip, I just want to invite you to our book study that's happening this summer. That's right. It is time to jump in to the book that I wrote, Social Media for Schools. We have a free book study that you need to sign up for. It starts Tuesday, June 10th at 11 a.m. Central. If you didn't sign up, it's not too late. And if you don't have the book, just join us anyways. The link to sign up is in the show notes. It's also over on the events on my Facebook page, Social School for EDU. Check out that events page and join us. It's free. We're going to go through each section of the book over 5 Tuesdays this summer. Learning together's so much more fun. You get to hang out with me live. Plus, we record them all. So if you can't join live, you still get the recording, and you're going to get a bunch of resources and links and ideas to get better on your social media for your school for next year. So join us in that summer book club. Now let's get to this week's K-12 PR tip. All right, today's K-12 PR tip is one that you can think about either for summer school or leading into next school year. But there's this new trend of basically setting up a tripod with a phone that's recording. You have a microphone in front, and you tape a sign that is asking your students that are walking by, going to class, or your staff members, hey, share one thing that you love about our school. Or if you had to describe your school with one word, what would you say? And you might set that little stand up for a period of 30 minutes and have record. And then you can edit those items together to create such an authentic view and authentic insight into what people really think about the question that you pose. What I really like about it is it's not somebody like on the spot with somebody interviewing them. They see the sign and they take the initiative to come up and say, my one word is family, or I think about sports, or I think about how much my teachers support me. Obviously, you can do a variety of questions. This idea came from me with a future podcast guest that's going to be coming on the show that reached out and said, hey, we've really elevated our Instagram channel in the last 6 months since I took over. And this was one of the strategies that I saw stand out. Figure out how to make it happen now. I've got a link into one of the examples in the show notes, and then make it happen. So it's kind of a little interview, but without the person actually there. You're setting up a little station, and then you're giving your students. And I think if you do a recurring, they're going to understand that, hey, here is this week's question. Maybe I want to stop by and answer it. And you could do a variety of questions. So that's this week's K-12 PR tip. Now let's dive in to a whole big discussion about social media, about marketing, about admissions with Miriam and Laurie. Oh my gosh, you guys, 2 for the price of 1 today. We have a really special podcast episode. We've got Hive in the house. I was going to say Thrive 5. No, Hive is in the house. Laurie Ehrlich and Miriam Stein. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, now, Laurie has been on the show before. Miriam, this is the first time around. I think did I meet both of you through Aubrey?
think so.
Okay, so Aubrey is doing amazing things out there, and she's introduced me to a lot of amazing people doing things, great things for schools all around the country. But why don't we have maybe you, Miriam, because it's first time on. I'm going to have you start, but I would love you to share your background
Mhm.
and then your role at Thrive Hive in located, I think, in Maryland, but I think you work
Yeah.
with schools all over. So go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, very true, very true. So I'm a longtime listener, first time guest. I'm really excited to be here. I love what you share, and I learned so much from your podcast all the time. So I'm really excited to be here. And hi everyone listening. So yeah, we are based right outside Washington, D.C. I am an educator by training. I love teaching. I love helping people get better at what they do. I started out by teaching high school history. I just wanted to get high school kids excited about being part of something more than like their, tunnel vision of their life. And I love schools. I love the logistics of schools. And as I worked in school for a while, I wanted to get into administration and kind of into the behind the scenes work of schools. And someone at my school, I was working at Charles E. Smith Jewish Day School, which is a school in our area here. It's pre-K through 12th grade, about 1,000 students. And I subsequently became a parent at the school. I have 3 kids who go, so I'm a day school parent also. But I was working at the school as director of student life and a teacher, and someone said to me, "If you love logistics, you should get into admissions and enrollment." And I said, "Isn't admission just giving tours? Like what? Why would I do that?" I had no idea. I just had never thought about like what goes into filling the classes, as many school professionals do. Just never think about it. So I ended up interviewing and getting the job at Charles E. Smith to be the upper school director of admission. We're on 2 campuses. We had 6 people total on our team, and I was the upper school director. So 6th through 12th grade, responsible to recruit and retain kids. And I did that for 7 years. Loved it. I learned a lot. It's a lot more than giving tours, it turns out. And then COVID was like this big full stop disruptor, and I ended up saying, "I've been here a long time. I love what I do, but I want to really broaden and not just work at my school, but just like see what else is out there." So I opened a consulting practice and to help schools with enrollment strategy. And that was my plan, was going to do that. And then I told my dear colleague Laurie, who was the director of marketing and communication at our school at the same time. I said, "Laurie, I'm going to do this." And she said, "I'm going to do this too for marketing and communication." And several months later, so was born Thrive Hive. So we work with schools all over the country, anywhere in the world, honestly. And we help schools with enrollment and marketing strategy. And I'm the enrollment person. I know what it's like. I know how hard it is to get every single kid. And Laurie and I work together hand in hand as marketing and enrollment. So we know the importance of working together and how challenging it can be to work together also with many competing needs. So that's my background and my role at Thrive Hive.
Okay. I didn't realize you guys came from the same school too. What
Yes.
I think is so cool, Miriam, is when you said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this thing," and then Lori's like, I'm gonna do this thing too. You guys, well, maybe you did have a little bit of fear, but you guys, I'm just telling you, there are not enough people helping schools. And so it's so abundant, and that's why it's awesome that, I serve schools as well. And it's like, we need more people to do that because there's amazing work to do. And you guys actually join forces to
Yeah.
kind of help schools in a variety of ways. So, Lori, why don't you share your background a little bit? Obviously, it overlaps a little bit with Miriam's story, but then, kind of what your specialty is. And then can you just dive in a little bit to how Thrive Hive exactly helps with enrollment and marketing strategies with schools?
Absolutely. So my background is very different from Miriam's. I worked in the business to business nonprofit world for a really long time, in a variety of, marketing manager, marketing director roles. And it was after I started a family that I was like, I'm done commuting an hour and a half each way, into downtown Washington, D.C. I'm done, with something that I'm not connected to from a mission standpoint. And this job more or less like appeared out of nowhere at Charles E. Smith. And I was like, I am connected to the mission. It's 2 miles from my house, and like I'm getting this job. So, I spoke to Miriam. Miriam was on maternity leave at the time. I spoke to some other people at the school before I was hired, and I made sure that I got this job. But when I walked through the doors on my first day, I was like, oh my God, this is not like any other marketing position I've ever held before. And that's what I tell people, in a school environment, especially new school marketers. I'm like, you have to give yourself grace. There is a significant learning curve here. Um, when I walked in, I was the first director of marketing. So there was a communications associate who was posting to social media, sending out emails, updating on the website, but there was no strategy behind it. So, I was brought in to lay that foundation and really grow our initiatives, grow the brand, work with admission, work with development, work with 24 other departments at the school. And of course, my priorities lied with admission and development because that's what drives the revenue into the school. So I worked very closely with the admission team. It wasn't always like a super rosy picture. There were challenges, and I was in charge of so many different things that it was sometimes very hard to prioritize. And, my favorite story to tell about Miriam is like, she would just like hop into my office and be like, "Oh my God, I have the best idea. Let's do it. Can we do it now?" And I'd be like, "But we have this plan. And we talked about this. And why are you upsetting my equilibrium?" But, that's where we really learned how to function as a admission and marketing team. And when we started Thrive Hive, we wanted to be very real. We were like, we've sat in your positions. We're not saying, "Oh, we can help you with your enrollment strategy" in this vacuum. We did it. We did it all. We saw the good, the bad, the ugly, the amazing. We laughed, we cried, we did it all. So, Thrive Hive helps schools in a number of ways. We have a signature program called the Enrollment Blueprint, where we conduct an admission audit, a digital audit, audience research, focus group surveys, a competitive analysis, really a robust discovery process so we can understand where schools are. And then, using some of that data, recommend where they need to go. So
Okay.
we're really laying out, this is your admission marketing strategy. This is the messaging that you need. This is your value proposition. And here is where you're going to promote yourself to which audiences through which channels. And then we provide coaching to them to make sure that they understand how to implement this plan.
Okay.
Um, Not every school, is in a position to work with us on the blueprint. So we have variations. We have something called an enrollment marketing roadmap, which is a scaled down version of the blueprint. We've also worked with schools solely on coaching or solely on storytelling or, in one concentrated area. We've done just, focus groups and surveys for schools so we can help to move their processes along all through the lens of this isn't just about recruitment, it's also about retention. And it's about putting your stake in the ground at the school of we are partners in this, but we also need the support of the entire school from the advancement department to the head and everybody in between to make sure that enrollment is successful.
I love that. I love that you point out, you've been in the trenches, and it's one thing to come in as a consultant, a partner, and suggest all these changes, but it's another to actually implement them. And so the fact that you not only do all of the deep dive, if you can, with the school, which obviously is going to be the best because then you really understand what they need, but then you can coach them through making it happen. And I really just know from being connected with you guys, it's like, there's obviously this level, this elite level, but not all schools can be at that elite level. So it's okay. Okay, what's going to be the best bang for your buck? This is going to move the needle the most. So I love that. So social media, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about enrollment today, okay? But social media is a need for every school. So just to start us off, because this is the Mastering Social Media for Schools podcast, I don't know which one of you wants to take this, but what do you see most schools struggling with when it comes to social media?
Sure. And I think that the one of the biggest things is how are they filling their calendar and with what intention?
Mm-hmm.
I see schools that are throwing literally everything on social media. There's something going on in the classroom, they post it. There's something going on around the school, they post it. There's a faculty, staff, or student achievement, they post it. But there's no intention behind it. And then they get so stressed out of, oh, I have to post this on social media now, and I have pictures, and I have this, and I have this. Whereas not everything needs to be posted in real time or have a timestamp.
Mm-hmm.
And, really having at least that roadmap of what are our objectives on social media? What are the calls to action that we need to use? How often are we posting? And how does this priority coexist with our other marketing priorities? It can be challenging because admission has objectives on social media, the school brand has objectives, development has objectives. So there's a lot to balance. And I don't see schools, really taking a step back, whether it's over the summer or midpoint through the year, to really evaluate where they are and, either smoothen the process going forward or really harnessing their efforts.
Yeah.
And I know
I
that.
would say one thing to add also, yes, and I think schools, an area that I see them struggling is with focus and constantly reminding parents out there and kids out there who are looking at social media of how it relates to the core school values or the core school mission. And like, you can call that being strategic. You can call that any number of things, but for, I love the tip from the podcast last week around spotlighting graduates who are coming out. Like, that's a beautiful tip. And I would also encourage anybody who's doing that, like, one step further is spotlight graduates and showcase how they are emblematic of your portrait of a graduate or how they are walking the walk of our school values. So it's not just like, oh, this is where they got into college or this is where they're headed, but this is where they're headed. And we've armed them with that because at our school, we focus on confidence and resilience and tradition or something like that, and like just making those connections for parents. And I think that's something that a lot of schools shortcut because I think it's obvious that, oh, of course, everybody knows, like, we're ensuring a vibrant future. Like, well, no, parents certainly are not remembering your marketing messaging that came out from a strategic plan 3 years ago. So I think that is something that if there's one takeaway for social media, like, don't be shy about again and again and again and again reminding parents how it connects to a school value or, a core strategy at the school.
I'm just thinking a little bit about AI. Obviously that's working smarter, not harder, and incorporating that. I could see schools if you've got a custom like ChatGPT that you create and that you say, hey, getting help writing a social media post is great, but what about feeding into it that, hey, with each social media post, we want to make sure that we are emphasizing these core values or these portrait of a graduate, objectives, and try to weave those into some of the stories that you provide, suggestions you provide back to me, which are always a draft and you have to edit those. But I could see that as maybe a little tip that schools could do.
It's a great idea. I love that. Yes. And then also it'll become second nature. Once you get once AI tells you a few times, you'll be like, oh, right. Like, let's make sure, just like throw this word and frame it this way. And that's the idea. You want it to be just like muscle memory.
Yeah. So, you guys talked about two struggles. You talked about the no strategy and then the focus. So if Thrive Hive was partnering with a school and you were really focusing on, maybe improving some of that social media, I guess, are there just a couple ways that you've really been able to craft and get schools on the right path with those things? Any examples?
Can I give an example, Laurie, about the kindergarten flyer that we saw? So we're working with a school. It's a K through 8th grade, and they're focusing on kindergarten recruitment, widening the funnel as much as they can at the beginning. We did an enrollment blueprint. They went for the big package, which was great. We love this school. We love the professionals there. And we did tons of research with them. We're doing their website. We're doing video. Like, we're doing it all. And the admission director sends us a flyer saying, what do you think about this kindergarten open house flyer? And I initially was like, it looks great. And then I was like, wait a minute. And then Laurie responded. She goes, where's the messaging that we came up with you? Like, we gathered all this data. We distilled it for you. We gave you a messaging guide. don't forget to look at the messaging guide. Like that is an exact example. And that's what we're there for. And that's where the coaching is helpful. We're there to like remind you, hey, look at the messaging guide. Now she remembers to look at the messaging guide. But that's exactly what we would do. It's in those really concrete elements of creating a kindergarten flyer. Make sure that those keywords and messages are included. You know, there's a reason K-8 is in this community. Like we're highlighting K-8 because they're in a sea of K-12s. Lean into that. And they just weren't. They were like, be, you know, welcomed and warm and your child is cared for. Like that's nice, but that's not distinguishing you from the other schools down the street. So in that kind of concrete way, we help you with that concrete messaging.
And Andrea, also to dovetail off what Miriam's saying, as part of this digital audit, we're looking at the engagement on your social media, what types of posts are resonating and what's not. And we show them, I've run sort of live audits through ChatGPT of putting in, here are your social media metrics. Which content themes are the most resonant? Where's the most engagement? So they can see, oh, academics ranks really high and athletics ranks really low. Let's look at the athletics content because people love to see a robust athletics program. So is it in the content? Are there not enough photos? Is there not enough video? Is there not enough spotlighting of who these athletes are and their amazing accomplishments? So we make these specific recommendations of, we found this in your social media data. We want you to refine what you're doing by adding value, by increasing that human element, by taking video, even if it's on your iPhone. Canva and other AI tools really allow you to up the ante and up the quality of what you're posting.
Also, like with a digital audit, if we can identify, Laurie does this all the time, and it's like I always learn so much that, if we identify that, Facebook is being watched by a certain demographic, usually the grandparents, because we're old now, like whatever you're marketing, like make it grandparent friendly. Don't make it super hip and like TikTok-y and off-putting to grandparents. Like think about your audience, which we know you can make decisions rooted in data. And I think that's really helpful for people. They have lanes to go. And instead of it just being this like sea of, I don't know what to do, like we help you figure out what to do and how to get started. And it has results. Like it really helps.
Yeah. And I just want to go back to, the best players, the best performers in the world have coaches. So, wherever you're at, even to look at some of this coaching, it's just like, that's how helpful is that to have somebody look at it. And a lot of times it is those little things that you're just like, oh, we completely forgot about, that aspect. And I love it. So I'd like to jump over now to marketing and enrollment because that truly is some of your expertise. Not that social media isn't, because we've just gotten great ideas with that. But I think you guys work with a lot of independent schools, private schools, I believe. But I think, and I know that marketing's a need for every school nowadays. Can you guys share, if you had to break it down, and maybe you each get three separate things, but what are three things that schools need to focus on to improve enrollment? It's something that, very new to public schools, but a lot of them are seeing declines. And, I can see that maybe that's in some cases seen as the enemy but hey, we're all just competing for students. We know we have great opportunities. So what are three things that schools need to focus on to improve enrollment? Whoever wants to go first.
I think we're definitely going to have three different answers, from our respective lenses.
Okay.
What I see the most is schools, they don't have that key messaging umbrella. They don't have that universal, here is who we are unashamed. And here are 3 to 4 themes, key messages that we should be marketing against. It's open house here, and we have this warm community here, and our academic excellence is, top notch. Any school can say that about themselves, but the work isn't being done to, really refine and pull out those differentiators. And when you were talking just before, Andrea, about coaching, we help bring schools sort of out of that day-to-day crazy and help them look at the bigger picture. So I think that that's the first thing.
Okay.
I think also, and Miriam might talk a little bit more about this, is the marketing and mission teams are not always in sync. The marketing people are always, doing 400 different things. The admission team is very focused, on enrollment. And there's sometimes that disconnect of, here are objectives, here's the division of responsibilities. Let's move, let's row in the same direction. And then lastly, it's having that comprehensive marketing program and actually thoughtfully planning out your outreach. Not every message is appropriate for every constituent. As you're getting further and further into the year, and the admission cycle is now a year-round process, your messaging isn't always applicable at all times of the year. So really rolling with the tides and evolving with the calendar and with the needs of your prospective and current families can really put you on that right path.
Yeah. And these, some of my listeners, like these three things, key messaging, marketing, and missions, are like, we don't have marketing and missions. I'm the one person that's, but, and then this comprehensive plan, it's a little bit scary for you guys. But it's just important. Again, we got to get to that next level of thinking in those terms, because we are competing for, our product is these students that we need to put through our system, right? And that's really maybe making it sound not so personal, but it is personal, and we're lucky that we get to tell stories around that. But those are really good, Laurie. How about you, Miriam? What would you say are three things that schools need to focus on to improve enrollment?
Okay, so yes, and definitely it's like again, like we're kind of two sides of the same coin, or like two different, pieces of the same maze. So everything Laurie said, and also to complement that, I would say number one, get your meetings in order. Meetings, I'm a big fan of meetings when they're done right. I would make a map of all the meetings that you wish you could have, like all the people you wish you could talk to and have a better relationship with. Get on their calendar in the summertime, like start now and map it out for the year. Because I'm a big believer that communication is a tremendous lever in getting the job done right. So
Okay.
make sure that you have meetings.
So tell me, who are those people that we should be going after?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, 100%. And by the way, also for people listening in public schools, we've worked with public schools because public schools also need to have like good meetings, good systems, good teams, like all the things. It's just a little bit different. And your funding depends on how many kids you have enrolled on the first day of school. Like it's a similar game. It's a little bit of a different flavor. So we get it. I totally get it. The meetings. Okay, number one, marketing and admission. Make sure you have a meeting together.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many schools we work with where they don't have regular meetings. I recommend meeting every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. I'm a big fan of every 3 week meetings. Once a month is not frequent enough. Once a week is like way too frequent.
Yep.
So marketing and admission. I would say that admission must meet with the senior leader or the head of school. Make it happen, and do not let them cancel that meeting with you. If they're canceling the meeting with you, it means they don't think it's important. So figure out what needs to be true so they understand how important it is. They need to be your partner in making admission happen, because you're going to need to ask them to reach out to VIP families or VIP community connectors. Okay, they need to really be hand in glove with you on admission. Other meetings, meet with the school leadership once a month, the principals. Hey, what should I know about the curriculum that I don't yet know?
Mm-hmm.
I would say also, here's an easy one, and easy for you all to plan as you're thinking about summer. Once a year, meet with the head of each department, like the head of athletics, the head of food service, the head, head of English, whatever. Meet with them and say, hey, it's a new year. What's one thing you want families to know about your department? How can I sell the school? So that's like a great thing. Put it on your calendar annually to do that. So I'm a tremendous fan of like communicating in person. So I would say number one important is map out your meetings and make sure they happen.
Okay,
Number two,
I just want to say, Miriam, I love that. My listeners are really gonna love that. But I really like the last one of that, once a year meet with the head of the department. What's one thing that people should know about your department? It's making them feel, it's kind of like help me help you. And they get to maybe brag a little bit, and then you can maybe pull out some stories or some things that you can serve them, and then you're building that relationship so that you
100%.
can build on that all year long. So I love it. Meetings. So what's your second thing?
Okay, number two, I would establish systems.
Yep.
Because the reason, like with enrollment, like the process, it's not rocket science. It's not like being a neurosurgeon. Like you don't have to go to school for it. You just have to be organized and planful and strategic. So map it out. Like, especially now, again, we're in June, like take the summer and like take a day and map out, hey, are we clear on our process for what happens when an inquiry comes in? Are we clear on our process for how we accept? Are we clear on our process of what we do in the summertime when people are out of office? Who's going to review applications? Like establish those systems and you will be so happy. Laurie and I have a summer retreat for Thrive Hive. We're just getting our ducks in a row also. I'm a tremendous believer in just like taking stock and getting organized. And then once the school year starts, then you go with it.
So I want to give a little personal example right now of this and, for everybody to wrap their head around it, because sometimes you don't think about that whole inquiry process and whatever. So everybody, this is the first time I'm sharing this. Like I am looking at adding, gonna get Invisalign. Okay. Like I just have these crooked teeth and it's never really bothered me, but like now I'm on video more than ever. And so I'm like, okay, somebody told me where to go. So just yesterday I message them through their website and then I get a message right away. And then they're like, can you come in one of these 3 times? And I'm getting all of these messages. I feel like the most important person in the world. Obviously that dentist office knows how important that relationship is right away because it's dollars, right? And it's a free consultation. But once you do it and invest your time, you're probably going to sign it on and do it with them. We have to think about our schools in the same way because we are competing and so many schools are not doing that. So it is really important from enrollment to the other thing that I've heard of is how people apply for jobs at your school. If you're not taking that seriously, if you're not making it easy, if you're not making it welcoming, people are going to go work for somebody else, right?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Think about that. I mean, Laurie and I do a workshop that's called Building a Culture of Retention. And we just taught it at a conference in February. And we said, we're doing culture of retention. And so many people said, staff retention? And we're like, no, student retention. But it's the same idea. If one of your core values is warmth and one of your core values is valuing each individual, are you demonstrating that through your staff recruitment process and your staff treatment process? 100%. And that actually brings me to number 3. The number one competitive advantage for any organization to be successful, and with this, I think about this with enrollment, is having healthy teams. And this is a soapbox I never thought I would be on. When I wanted to be an enrollment consultant, I thought I was going to help schools with enrollment strategy. As we started working with more and more schools, we realized, oh God, your product is fine. That's not why you're struggling with enrollment. You're struggling with enrollment because you have teacher burnout. You're super frustrated with your head of school. Your principal's not an effective communicator. Your supervisor doesn't know how to supervise. Everyone is burnt out. And then we have the most holy and important work of working with kids, and we're leaving it all on the stage. So I started to get into it. Schools called and said, hey, you're a teacher. Like, can you teach our admin team how to like talk to each other? Like as individuals, we're great, but as a team, we're toxic. Can you help with that? And I was like, yeah, totally. I can do it. If I can excite high school kids around history, like I can do anything.
That's a true story. I love speaking to adults, but having to speak to high school students is like, that's like a nightmare for me. Okay. So this just reminds me, you guys, when Miriam and I were talking about doing a podcast, there was like all these different directions she could go, and she definitely wanted Laurie on with so they could talk about the work they're doing together. But now you know why, because we just got 6 great tips in regards to focusing on our enrollment. And by the way, the episode that just launched last week, I talked to Mr. Mark Ullman, who also helps kind of high performing people and it also, focusing on teams. So guys, if you're listening to this one and you're just like, yeah, our team does need help, it is your sign. We got a couple resources here that can work on it. There's obviously book studies and things like that. But yeah, you can't be successful as a school if we've got poor performing teams. So,
so work on that, like figure out one thing to do to make it better, and I'm happy to recommend books. Like I live and breathe this stuff in a way I never thought I would, but I think it is essential to have a high performing school is, you want your enrollment to grow. It will not grow if you don't have a happy, healthy team.
Yeah.
So
And
maybe
Andrea,
unexpected, but that's, yeah.
I think you bring up a really interesting and important point with regards to faculty, and this is
Mm,
universal across public schools, private schools, charter schools, et cetera, which is they need to feel the love too,
mm,
from highlighting their accolades to how the administration is communicating with them, to how they're being trained to deal with difficult parents and how to communicate with parents. That's
mm,
faculty in the school. And, something that I've been thinking about that, I haven't really had a chance to plan out is what does it mean to market your school to potential faculty members? And, what does it mean to retain them and to nurture them throughout the year? Of course, there's whatever's going on in the administrative leadership side in terms of professional development, but making sure that they feel like they're in the loop. When I was at Charles E. Smith, including faculty on emails, that are going out school-wide or division-wide was not a best practice, was not part of what they were doing. And teachers would come to me and say, "Can you include me on this email? I need to know what's going on." So then it just became, if it was a lower school email, it would go out to lower school faculty. If it was all school, it would go out to all faculty, just so they can like keep these things in the back of their minds, whether or not it's like directly relevant to them.
Yeah.
And that reminds me also another kind of branch of what we do to help like kind of make everything really tight together is like we do a faculty communications workshop. So there's one school we're working with right now where we started working with them as a communications audit. The school just wanted to know, hey, like, are we communicating well and effectively? We were happy to do it. We discovered a lot with them. And now we did a voice and tone workshop. Like they're a great school, but they kind of don't know like guidance around how should we communicate. So we help them realize that like you want to include warmth. You're warm, you're creative and imaginative. Like those were their like core tones or something. So how do we communicate that to the faculty? Like how does the faculty know that that is something that should happen? So we are going to be working with the school leadership who then will be working with the faculty to train them in, hey, when you're writing an email, like here, double check it and make sure, are you including something that's imaginative? Like not just, an example that we use, my own child, I hope she's not listening to this, but I got the following, I'll say this, my kid's school, one of their core values is being student centered. A lot of schools say that, but what does that actually look like? I'll tell you what it looks like. I got an email this was when she was in 7th grade, and I got an email from the math teacher that said, Dear May, I know that you're a strong math student. Your performance on the recent Unit 3 test shows me that you haven't yet mastered Unit 3. Your grade of, I don't know, 45% is demonstrating that to me. Here are the ways that we can make sure that you master Unit 3. Meet me tomorrow at lunch. Da, 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 da. So like that was the most student-centered email in the world. It didn't really care that it didn't make it feel like she failed. It made it feel like she didn't learn it yet. So, and the faculty gets training in that, which is like really powerful. It makes me happy as a parent and as a paying customer.
Yeah, definitely. So we've talked about a lot of strategies, a lot of things that schools can do. You've worked with a lot of schools. Do you guys have a success story or two where, you worked with a specific school that had been struggling with enrollment and then maybe the impact that you were able to make? Do you have a story of that, Laurie? Do you want to go first?
Sure. So one school that Miriam and I are now working with on an ongoing basis, when we started working with them, we did an enrollment blueprint. We're doing some follow-up coaching and other work is they were so focused on kindergarten enrollment at, the regular time of admission, meaning they would
Mm,
have, robust sections at the admission deadline on acceptance day. They had a lateral entry program for students, that started above kindergarten, but they really weren't looking at enrollment as a year-round process. And we, looked at their enrollment data, we looked at their marketing data, and we said, you cannot get discouraged if you do not have the number of applications that you want when applications are due. Are we suggesting that you move to rolling admission? Absolutely not. But we're asking you, to change your frame of mind and to not to lower your expectations of what you're going to get on the application deadline day, but just to keep at the back of your mind that we're going to keep marketing, through the spring, through the end of the year. And for this coming fall, did they get as many kindergarten applications by that deadline as they wanted to? No. But now they're dribbling in and they're going to end up with three very robust kindergarten sections. And their minds are blown because they're like, oh, we're keeping our marketing going. We're keeping our messaging out there. We have social media advertising and some other initiatives happening. And as Miriam and I projected, the applications are coming in after the deadline.
Awesome.
So there also another piece also is like schools who there's a school I'm thinking of. We worked with a high school that was so obsessed with like defining themselves opposite the competitors. Like, oh, we're not like them because of this, and we're not like them because of this, and we're not like them because of this. But nobody could say like who they were.
Mhm.
And that's really important, especially in a competitive landscape, whether you're public or private. And so what we really worked on with them was like practicing and saying, this is who we are. And we don't care if the other school has 5 times as many people at their open house. Like, good for them. But this is who we are, because we're not at their open house, you know?
Mhm.
And we started working with them. They were one of our first schools that we worked with. And since working with them, they have had full oversubscription into ninth grade every single year by that small change. I mean, that wasn't the only, there was a lot that went into it, but these small changes really make a very big difference.
Yeah. Oh, now if you could tell our schools one thing to stop doing right now when it comes to marketing, okay? One thing that schools should stop doing, what would it be?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, and I still see schools that are buying print ads,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that having a strategy around print ads is essential, especially because they're expensive, and to invest really thoughtfully. So if there is, in our area, there's something called Bethesda Magazine, and there's a lot of elite independent schools that advertise in there. So the question that I received when I was at school by our board members would be, why aren't we in Bethesda Magazine? And I would say to them, well, I'm investing that $4,500, $5,000 elsewhere. Well, we need to be next to A, B, and C school. So then we started doing that again, and we knew that was just going to be like a thing that we had to do for awareness purposes. But then that also brings up the question of like, you know, how much is your board directing marketing? And that's like a whole conversation for another time. But I think that whether your marketing budget is like $100,000 or $10,000 or $1,000, to really think through what you're doing instead of just being like, oh, we're just going to spend this how we did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like
Stop.
it. Good tip.
Stop spending what you did last year just because it's easy.
Right. Or
100%.
just because everybody else is doing it,
Right.
because it doesn't mean that it's working.
For sure.
So, okay, awesome. Miriam, do you have another one that you'd
I
say?
would like, don't let meetings get canceled. That's another meeting that I didn't list on the list is admission and the business office,
Mhm.
figuring out those contracts and financial aid. This is if you're a private independent school. I don't know in public school if there is that, but gosh, if you're not meeting, please set up that meeting. I recommend you meet every other week between February 1st and June 1st, let's say. And if you're not full yet by June 1st, then meet every other week between February 1st and September 1st. Make it
Mhm.
happen and don't let it get canceled. So I'm
Yeah.
giving you a negative positive there, but don't let meetings get canceled. So like make the meetings happen.
Okay. I like it. Okay, we're gonna wrap up. We could talk forever. This has
Yeah.
been really super fun. What is your best social media tip? We always kind of like to leave with this, and you gave a lot of tips at the beginning, so it could be similar, but if you had to pick one best school social media tip, what would it be?
I can go first and then Laurie will end with a bang. I would say follow other schools that are non-competitor schools. And if you like what you see with them, then try to mimic it. Or other companies also think about like what sticks with you and then see if you can recreate that for your own school. But I
Well,
learned a lot by following a lot of schools out there.
we call it admire and acquire, Miriam.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so that was
Yes.
from Barbara Hunter. She's the executive director of NSPRA. But yeah, admire and acquire. Pull it in.
Admire and acquire.
Yeah, you're going to
Yes.
make it a little bit different, but I also like that it's not only schools. If you're a public school, you could be looking at private school, but you could be
Totally.
looking at higher ed, and you could
Mm-hmm.
be looking at brands, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I love that tip. What would be your tip, Lori?
Student generated content is a huge winner. whether that's a social media internship program or having middle or high school students produce content for you on a one-off basis, that content does not sound like a marketing department. It's so authentic and people eat that up with a spoon.
For sure, the best storytellers, and it takes a little bit of work, totally worth it. And it's a way you're really going to grow your brand authentically with the students are starting to make these decisions, right? I mean, you gotta market to families and to parents and grandparents, but you also have to market to those students. So there's a lot that goes into marketing and admissions. And you just met two of the best, Miriam and Laurie. So, what's the best way to stay connected to Thrive Hive? You guys got a website that people could check out and maybe contact you if they've got additional questions. Tell me all the things.
So our website is thrivehive.group.
Okay.
Our email address that will reach both of us is hello@thrivehive.group. And we are both on LinkedIn, and anybody is welcome to connect with us, ask questions, follow us, etc.
We
Okay.
love when people reach out. We genuinely love working with people and with schools. So please don't be shy.
Yeah. Well, we'll put all that contact information in the show notes, you guys, and we'll check out their website, check out some of their resources. I'm so excited that you're connected to both of these wonderful people doing great things for schools. You guys, it's summer already. It's always enrollment season. And it's a great time to celebrate your school. So thanks for joining us today, and everybody listening. We'll be back next week with another fabulous guest. You might not get a 2-for-1 like today. This was bonus packed, and I'm sure you maybe need to listen to this episode again. And if you've got somebody that needs to listen to this, maybe it's somebody else on your team, okay? You're going to forward and share this podcast episode with them so that you can get on the same page and make some improvements for your school. So thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you, Andrea. This is a
Yeah.
blast. Thank you so much. Good luck, everybody out there. You're doing a great job.
Keep it going. Bye, guys.